everybody, and welcome to episode 14. I think I am slowly moving towards the end of After Hours. We've completed 2 whole weeks. Um, and thank you for all the love and support that you guys have sent in. Our guest for today is a very, very special and a very dear friend of mine. He is noted in the industry for his aesthetic. He is one of the best art designers to work with in the country. He is probably the best. And he's a very good friend of mine. I love him, I love his work, and his name is Hashim Ali. So I am quickly going to connect with Hashim and see if he is online so that sorry you guys, that was my water bottle. And he is online. Let's just quickly connect with Hashim, him about his life during the lockdown and about his work. Hi Hashim.
Hi Mushk, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good, good. Just trying to get my head around the quarantine.
Hashim, I was excited to do this with you, and I'll tell you why. Because जब मैंने ये शुरू किया था, मैं चाह ये रही थी कि सिर्फ फैशन नहीं हो, एंटरटेनमेंट भी हो, और फिर हर तरह के लोग हो, behind the camera, in front of the camera, models, directors, and I thought if I wanted to talk to somebody behind the camera, even bigger than a photographer for me is an art director because I've seen your work. So, first of all, Asha, मुझे बताओ कि how did all of this start? When did you know you wanted to do this? Tell me about all of this.
So basically, I'll be very honest. I love production design since I was, I think, very young. Since I started watching movies and I realized that movies are fake and it's not real stories and these characters are not, real characters. So, I would watch Harry Potter and I would watch all these fantasies, film, Roald Dahl की जो उसके वो होते थे, TV adaptations होती थी, and I would be like, ये किस तरह करते हैं सब कुछ? Like, how does it happen? So when I started doing that, I was, I think, in O-level or 9th grade when I started looking at these things and got interested. But to be very honest, I wanted to do theater, and I was doing a lot of theater. And then somehow, one of my friends who was working in theater with me as well, Fatma Gain, she was working with Asadul Haq, who's a great director. I think you had him on your show as well.
I did.
He was doing a film, and she asked me if I could be a part of it. And I randomly started working on it as a stylist, as an assistant stylist with HSY. And from there it just picked up, and somehow people like Asad and a lot of other directors also saw that there was a potential in me to do that. I met Saima and Ali Hassan from there, and they were the ones who really pushed me towards doing art direction because it didn't exist before. And they pushed the clients. They started talking to people that no, we need an art director on board. And at the start it was very, very difficult because people would be like, we don't need an art director, we don't need somebody to do this. वो क्या आप set बनाते हैं, आप क्या करते हैं, But then over time, it kind of picked up, and a lot of people gave a lot of support to me in the industry to be able to do this, to be very honest.
So Hashim, I remember जब मैंने नई modeling start की थी, there was a word called set director, set designer, art director. What is the actual word? And tell me कि इस label के नीचे what is the scope of work that you have?
So basically, I'll tell you what. I don't think there is somebody called a set director because people do use that term, but I don't think it's a set director. It's you have a set designer, you have an art director, you have a production designer, and I think you have a prop manager. These are the I think three जो हम उसके अंदर 4 categories जो हम देख सकते हैं. Now, a production designer essentially mainly works in films or TVC. So he basically comes up with the entire look and feel of the production. उसके under art director आता होता है, but in fashion we don't have a production designer. So your art director is the main person who comes up with the idea, but थोड़े से interchangeable हैं. International नहीं है. In Pakistan we kind of interchange the two jobs. Set designer is somebody who literally just designs the set. And then prop manager is somebody who literally just manages the props and the kind of props that are going to come on your shoot.
So Hashim, I think जो लोग fashion में नहीं हैं, those people who are not as involved as you and I, they don't really understand the magnitude of the work that you do in Pakistan, because I know I basically started working with you in, I think, March of 2018, and uske baad se
Yeah.
we've done at least 200 shoots or
I
something.
don't know how many.
We've unlimited number of shoots, and mujhe yaad hai, like, because of your aesthetic, you mentioned you've done styling in the past. You are not only just responsible of the set. Tell me what other things that you do on set. जब तुम वहाँ पे मौजूद होते हो, what all do you do?
So basically, I think essentially, and that's the job of an art director, to not only come up with ideas to help the stylist, because it's a vision. It's the vision of the
Yeah.
brand. It's the vision of the art director and the photographer and the creative directors, who basically need to come together, and so you need all the tools to kind of work together. So uske
Yeah.
andar, what we do is that you come up with sometimes the idea, sometimes the client has a basic idea, but you kind of guide them through that how is their idea going to be translated into a visual. Uske baad you talk about photographers, which photographers are going to be best for this thing. Sometimes the photographer hires us to come up with a vision that they have. Then uski
Yeah.
hum styling, we suggest styling as well, the kind of look and
Yeah.
feel that we want. We sometimes even suggest editing.
Yeah.
किस तरह की editing की feel होनी चाहिए. And sometimes when I get really passionate about a campaign, I become very annoying, and then I start giving ideas for how the campaign should actually start looking online, or keep the story क्या
How
होना
the
चाहिए.
model should pose, because I know
Yeah.
no, because मैं
Posing.
बताती हूँ, because sometimes you have such grand sets, and usually you want the model to also look like she's part of the set and not look like she's just standing.
Of
So
course.
I know you also, you tell a model कि नहीं तुम एक काम करो, ये नहीं करो, वो नहीं करो. So and I really appreciate that. I love taking your feedback. I always have been.
Because
So
I think essentially, Mushk, you would also know that a model, I feel, if I equate it to another art form, it's probably somebody who does mime. So she has
yeah.
to emote throughout
Yeah.
without saying anything. She doesn't have
Yeah.
to look scary all the time. She doesn't need to look like a really high end looking person all the time. There are different feel that needs to come through it. Sometimes she needs to look approachable, some look like she's from a very high upper class, who bridals mein aapki feel fark hoti hai. So just to get that emotion that the designer wants and what we want, you kind of just help them through. And
Yeah.
I work with you a lot, and I know how you also, because you also read a lot, and you've gone back to
Yeah.
reading, I think, again. So
Yes, I
you
have.
might have realized it really helps you with modeling as well.
Yeah. Bilkul, bilkul, it does. And Hashim, I also, that's just my point of view as a model. I think one of my favorite sets of yours was that ethnic ka shoot that we did with Ashna. And it was a 2-day
Yeah.
shoot, or
Oh
I
wow.
think
Uh,
where we had that expansive village setup. So I also
yeah.
believe that art direction is a little bit of storytelling, because जब हम set पे जाते हैं हम
It
एक
is.
मिनट के लिए भूल जाते हैं कि हम एक studio में.
Uh,
So,
uh.
tell me, what has been your favorite experience? You worked abroad. Tell me about your favorite set that you've created to date.
So basically, I think picking one would just be like, I don't think I can ever pick one, because there are experiences jo aate hain, just sometimes the client is very nice, sometimes the overall experience is very nice. So
Yeah.
there is this thing which so the ones that are me, which really used to like used to fun. One was a shoot that I did for Republic Women's Wear. It was one of those shoots that everybody kind of started seeing my work from. It was a palace that we
Yeah.
created indoor. We wanted to travel to
Wow.
Russia, but then we didn't want to do that because it was costing too much. And then models हमें ज़्यादा चाहिए थी. Then we realized that Pakistani models are much better than your regular बाहर की models, because you वहाँ जाके भी literally we're looking for models that look Pakistani. So it was unfair. And then Republic invested quite a lot of money for that time. And we created a set which looked like the inside of a palace. It was all blue. It turned out
Wow.
fantastically, and I learned so much from that. My second was, I think you were also a part of it. I'm not sure, but it was for Zaha that we did with Nadir, and was
No, I wasn't part of
outdoors.
it, but I shot on the same set. मतलब वो set लगा हुआ
Yeah.
था when I was shooting with Abdullah
Yes,
Haris
you
for
did
bridals.
Abdullah Haris. You did the
The
bridal.
Disneyland
So
kind of a set that you had.
that for me has honestly been one of my most I would say creative experiences, because we literally got to create another world, and it wasn't a world that we were replicating. It was something where I got to mix all my travels and everything that I'd read, and the fantasies and the fairy tales, and
Yeah.
the kind of characters that we created was surreal. And Khatija really was really adamant that we do something fun and creative, and she let us do that. So that was one of my favorites there. And then obviously the village set, because that was an experience for me where I learned to
Wow.
create an outdoor space indoors. So I think those were my experiences wahan pe. And video wise, I would say my favorite has always been I did a TVC for with Asadul Haq for Super Biscuits, and it was very patriotic. And I think that was something where I first learned about art, production design, and doing it for a moving picture. So that was one of my favorites till date. The like a video that I've done.
Hashem, I just remembered when I was shooting for Elan Bridals and your set was still there. मैं सुबह 8 बजे से वहाँ पहुंची हुई थी और जब शाम के 5 बजे शूट खत्म हो रहा था, they wanted to make a. I've called you and I've told you this. They wanted to make a
Yeah,
picture in front of your Purana set. And जब
yeah,
I was walking towards it and I thought that was an actual building. और जब मैं
yeah,
गई हूँ, Natasha told me, you do realize this is a set, right? And I
yeah,
was blown away. And I remember calling you and telling you
yeah,
what an amazing job.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Hashim, मुझे एक बात बताओ, like when you're traveling abroad, obviously
Hmm,
you go to places where you haven't been to before. You have
hmm.
architecture that you haven't seen before. How do you struggle in places where you haven't been to, where that you're not familiar with?
So basically, the first time I did it was very tough because honestly, I think the biggest handicap that you feel is the language, because you go there and you realize that you
बिल्कुल.
cannot communicate with the people.
Yeah.
And obviously culturally different होता है. यहाँ पे हम बहुत से जुगाड़े लगा लेते होते हैं last minute जो वहाँ पे आप नहीं कर सकते हो. Internationally, I think
बिल्कुल.
over time, and I learned this from Nadir actually. Nadir
Wow.
Nadir Feroz basically work abroad, and his main thing always has been that pre-production. Have your pre-production so strong where in that for me what happens is that I basically research on the country area that we're going to. I look at the local crafts
Yeah.
and the local things and the local stories, and I come up with a narration before going there. Then I usually request my client to take me there a day before or 2 days before the shoot, so that me and the photographer can literally travel and come up with the story that we've come up with. We find out exact frames and we replicate them in our minds. हम जाके कर सकते हैं, हम props इकट्ठे कर सकते हैं. It is very tough, to be honest. Because our pace as Pakistanis is very different from the pace जिससे बाहर लोग काम करते हैं. We work very
Yeah.
fast, I think.
Absolutely. और हम लोग के I think as an art director, your work starts before the shoot does and it ends
Yeah,
after the shoot does, because you have
yeah,
that wrapping up. तो
yeah.
Hashim, people forget कि it is not a, मतलब ये कोई एक दिन की बात नहीं होती art direction करना. You have an entire team. So tell me, खास तौर पे तब जब कोई external factor affects your work like weather or your
Yeah.
location. Tell me about that. वो बताओ मुझे.
So basically, what happens is that everybody, when they're shooting, they look at the day of the shoot. Okay, weather kya hai?
Yeah.
We have to look at 2 days before the shoot as well. Okay, weather kya hai? Especially if it's an outdoor location. We've
Yeah.
done this, that where we have constructed a set and it is outdoors and it rains and the entire thing kind of just blows away. And
Yeah.
and we have also had these experiences where we've constructed the set outdoors and then we had to bring it indoors. So usme the photographer
Wow.
really helps with the lighting. Sometimes the entire idea needs to change. We've had this experience. I had it with Cross Stitch, and it was the first collection with Sarah Sharoz. It was, I think, 2 years ago. We were all very nervous because it was also my first major celebrity thing, and I always loved Sarah. So when we were constructing the set, what happened was that the team, first of all, they completely messed it up. So we had to move it. Then they finally constructed the set, and the weather was so bad the entire set blew off. Literally blew off. Everything fell.
What?
And
In
I
front
was
of your
standing
eyes?
there. Everything, no. And Sarah Sharoz was there. It was 2 days. We literally lagged for 2 days. And on the third day, Mishal and I started crying because we didn't know what to do.
Oh
And then we
God.
came up, and then Cross Stitch was so nice that they said, let's change the idea. So we came up with another idea and then we reshot it somewhere else. But the amount of stress you go through, because I always say that with creation, it's literally like giving birth. So it's like a
Yeah.
baby, your baby, and then it hurts when things go mad. And it
I'm
might be
sure.
easy for other people that कोई नहीं दिन में हो गया आप कल पे shift कर दें परसों पे shift कर दें, but for us, because our labor is involved, people are literally making things from scratch,
Yeah.
coming up with ideas that are in our head, so वो पागल हो जाते हैं सारे के सारे. So we've had crazy experiences.
Speaking of crazy experiences, anytime somebody asks me what's the craziest thing I've ever done, you are the first person that comes to my mind because मुझे अब तक याद है, I was brand new, baby faced model, in my new way, and you made me jump into that pond.
Oh
And then
God, I
abhi
remember.
recently, and we did that editorial. Do you remember where I was standing on
Yeah.
that on the 22nd floor, and it was
Yeah.
4 in the morning, and everybody
Yeah.
started screaming.
But I would say something here, Mushk. I would like to bring this across, and that when we did that first thing, which was actually I think one of your first shoots, and we asked
Absolutely.
everybody to
By the
jump
way,
into the
just a
pond. You were
quick,
very
just a quick update. That shoot happened exactly 2 years ago today because it was in my
Oh
memories today.
wow! Oh amazing!
Yeah,
Oh amazing! I love
yeah,
that shoot, by the way. It was Shella
yeah,
Kapoor. So with
yeah.
what happened was that we asked you to go in, but you were slightly hesitant because you're like, "Pata nahi log karenge ki nahi karenge." But from that experience, I come to the experience that you're talking about right now, which was I think a few months back, where we were
Yeah,
on a top floor building, 22nd, 23rd floor,
yeah.
and we kept on telling you not to stand on the edge of the thing, and you're like, "Nahi, maine karna hai." Because it was your commitment to the entire thing. You were literally hanging from billboards. You were standing on the edge of the thing. It was windy, and I know you're scared of heights, and you have this major phobia, and you still managed to get the shot for us. That's what we like as art directors and photographers, when a model and the entire team is saying yes.
Hashim, speaking of editorials, you also are, you have a great team of people that you work with. You put your editorial ideas forward. You do very, very, very amazing editorials, and I have been lucky enough to be a part of one of them. Mujhe batao, tell me about the editorials, the thought process that goes into it, because I know you pre-plan it mahino pehle.
Yeah. So editorial के अंदर ना, basically I'll tell you the difference between an editorial and your normal shoot is that in a normal shoot, you're basically just you have to sell the clothes. The main purpose is to sell the clothes. But in an editorial, it's the idea that you're selling. It doesn't need to be जहाँ पे आपके कपड़े as such नजर आ रहे हो, but the entire visual is something that you relate to, that people relate to, and it's just literally like a story. It can be a fantasy. I love doing editorials because we can do the craziest things ever, and I think everybody loves doing editorials. You can literally, we have made
Yeah.
creatures, we have styled people in a very strange way. Even the editorial that we did with you, where we've got, I think Mehak got all these, Mehak said was the stylist for that shoot. She got these amazing things from वो जो सड़कों के ऊपर आपको बच्चों की पोनियां मिलती हैं, clips मिलते हैं. She
Yeah.
kind of used them on your island. So we kind of revamp the entire thing, and we kind of come up with our own ideas and how to get normal things and make them look pretty sometimes, and how to mix and match the clothes. Like one of my favorites and one of my first editorials actually was with Iman Suleiman. And,
yes, and I've
in
seen
that,
that beautiful, stunning picture of her framed in your
yeah,
office. Yes.
but there's another one. There's another one which I really like, which I don't know if you've seen or not. It was an HSY ki sari, and the way I wanted it to be shot was like a cocoon of a butterfly. It was wrapped around Iman, and she had her hand up, and the entire thing was just kind of going up, so it looked like वो cocoon में butterfly नहीं बंद होती है उस तरह से करना. So so you kind of play around with the clothes, you kind of play around with the styling. I think the items that we used in her hair were literally things that you put on like goats. So like वो बड़े cleverly with bells and stuff, we kind of fuse them together. So इस तरह, like once we painted Zara Pizada all golden, like completely
That has
gold.
to be one of my most favorite editorials that it's stunning, beautiful.
It's crazy. She couldn't take it out for like 2 days. So sometimes, so editorial mein ye hota, it's basically the model and the photographer and the makeup artist all putting their crazy ideas forward that you literally cannot do for a commercial shoot.
Yeah. And Hashim, you've done TVCs, you've done shoots abroad, you've done shoots here, fashion, editorials. What do you think's harder, doing it for a TVC or doing a fashion, like making a set for a fashion?
To be honest, I think both have their own kind of difficulties. Just if in fashion, you cannot wing things. So because it's a still image, so still image में ये होता है कि मैं उसको देख सकता हूँ, मैं उसको there is no set time for how long I'll watch it. I'll look at the image, right? So I can watch it for 10 minutes, I can watch it for 1 hour, I can watch it for 1 second. So uske andar items we use and the props we use and the kind of vision that we do has to look very authentic. Otherwise, it looks fake. In a TV commercial, you can kind of wing all of that because things are very far away and they kind of blend. And it's a moving image.
Yeah.
But in a TVC, your scale and your scaling of items and your color paletting really matters. So in both of them, you have different kind of आपकी difficulties आती हैं. I personally enjoy doing both on a like completely. I cannot differentiate between the two. कि मुझे ज़्यादा मजा किसमें आता है.
Yeah. Also, Hashim, I know you also got nominated for the Hum Awards for your work. Mujhe batao, do you think our directors are getting that kind of recognition that they should? And if not, what is the way forward? And also, because I know a lot of people who want to come into this, they know कि काम बहुत ज़्यादा है and maybe recognition उतनी नहीं है. You know, budding art directors who want to go into this direction. So, what do you think is the way forward?
I think what happened, I'll tell you what. So basically, when Hum was very, very generous enough to get me nominated for that thing, they didn't have a category, and they made space for us basically.
Absolutely.
And you know that thing. That kind of opened a lot of doors for art directors, because usse pehle bhi, when I was working, there were literally like 2 or 3 people who were working. Now, mashallah, they're like many people who are coming into this field, because वो recognition बहुत जरूरी थी. Because हम kind of put it out that listen, there is a person called an art director who was essential to the shoots, and I think Diva magazine was behind editorials that no, we need an art director. So just that nomination kind of opened many doors for us. But we need to realize that everything takes time. People are not going to get recognition today. You know, you're not going to get recognition maybe in the next 10 years. A model, as you will know, and we have also seen that Mehreen Syed and Sybil Chaudhary and all of these people have fought so much to create a niche in the industry of respectable models, you know. And then you had people, you had people like, you know, Iman Suleiman and Rehmat Ajmal and Zara Pizada and you now Isha Asad. You guys are also creating an image where you guys are not just models, you guys have personalities. You guys talk about things that you're not, you know, you say that we're not just dummies that you put clothes on. We're also human. But it has taken, because people look at you guys and say, oh, model bahut kama rahi hai. But they do not look at how Mehreen Syed and people before her and Rabia Bhatt and, you know, all of these people worked so hard to bring the industry to this point. Vaniza Ahmed, for example, you know. So isi tarah, I'm starting off, to be very honest. We have people like, you know, Kazim Humayun, who's doing a great job. We have people like Narmeen Faruqi in Karachi, who's doing a great job. You know, you have these people coming up who are working hard. It is going to take time for the recognition. But the thing is that we as art directors and creative people need to kind of stick together and keep on churning out work, so that, you know, we keep on showing that it's needed. And what's the difference in a shoot when an art director is there and when he or she is not present. But it is going to take time. It is disheartening. We all want a pat on our backs, but वो सब हमेशा नहीं मिलता. Awards नहीं होंगे, कुछ नहीं होंगे, but the recognition needs to come from within, basically, from the community in general. So I always say that, you know, when the models and the photographers and the designers respect us, or I get respect from, you know, like buck each other up. That is very important. That is needed in the industry, I feel.
Yeah. Also, Hashim, mashallah, you have an established clientele and you're doing an amazing job. People trust you with their work, with huge campaigns, and mashallah, you're doing very well. We're all very proud of you. Hashim, I think we've talked enough of your work. Just tell me, what is life like during the lockdown? I've been following up on your dance routines. You've been experimenting with a lot of different things. Let's talk about that. Hashim, I can't hear you. Hello? Hashim? Wait a minute. Hello? Hello?